Hey everybody, I'm Mikey.
And I'm Nikki.
And welcome back to another episode of Rhythm and Booze with Mikey and Nikki. I already said I'm Mikey. This is the third time I said it.
Okay, just to drive it home if you're not sure who you're listening to right now.
Obviously, you can
we started drinking
yeah,
already, so we'll just talk about that.
A little bit goes a long way.
Thanks for coming back. This is our second episode.
Yeah.
We have episodes. We have a show.
Yeah, we have episodes. We have lots of episodes. That's why we drink. What are we drinking today?
We are drinking wine called Tall, Dark, Handsome. I don't even know what kind this is.
Tall Dark Stranger.
Oh.
We talked about it many a times, but there's a reason
What did
why.
I say? Tall, Dark, Handsome?
Yeah, Tall Dark Handsome.
I don't know. I'm confused.
You meet? You're cut.
Tall, Dark, Stranger.
Uh-huh.
Which I was confusing with Handsome Devil, which is the other one by the same company that we used to drink.
And where can you get this fine drink?
At the finest Target near you.
It's so true though. We can't find it anywhere. You can't even find it at Beverages and More or Total Wine, which is like has everything for the bougie lifestyle or pretend bougie lifestyle that you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of,
it's pretty great. We
look
love
at
it.
my brand new shoes.
It's a podcast. Nobody's gonna watch this.
That was for the video. Great for podcast. Also for the video, but also people sitting at home. Hopefully we sound better because I went to Atomic and I rated the place.
Yeah.
And I told you I went shopping.
Yeah.
In the back has every bit of audio equipment. Maybe I shouldn't say this. No, but I'll say all that. Every bit of audio equipment you could possibly need for any kind of thing. And we have a brand new board here, which should help us with sound and editing and actually get us out a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're so fancy.
I know. This thing is a good amount of money, and like these microphones are a good amount of money. And
Mikey made sure to upgrade his microphone and made sure to give me the same one as last time. Just saying.
Fucking knew you. That's something about it.
Well, you had to tell me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, you have one that's from Brett, so it's Brett approved.
This is Brett's mic?
Yeah, this is Brett approved. Yeah.
I feel privileged
And
to
this
use
one,
Brett's mic.
yeah, this one is just better. So. We made a podcast a couple weeks ago about the Jump Baptiste video, I Need You, and that spurred off so many different ideas that we were like, let's just not make this a one-time thing. We want to make it a multiple thing. But in the process, we were both like, we have to listen to our voices. We have to edit it and listen to it again, and we had to make sure. And one thing that's really funny, because I never wanted to put it on you, but we should always listen to it before we put it out there, and I'm so glad you're like, please send it, please send it.
Yeah.
How did you feel after listening to it?
Shockingly good, actually. Like, no, I have always been terrified of hearing recordings of my voice, whether it's class recaps or even like way before that. I told Mikey this not long ago, but my friend Tara and I used to record like radio shows of ourselves with cassette tapes, you know, like 80s style with the 2 cassette decks. And we would have songs queued up from other tapes that we wanted to play. So we'd do our talkie bits, and then we'd play on the other tape deck and play a song, and then we'd go back to the talkie bits. But since then, I've been like terrified to hear my voice back. But I heard the podcast, and I was like, okay, so we sound like podcasters.
Yeah, we sound like podcasters. I mean, it's really easy to do this stuff. Shout out to Brett and Rachel, my other co-hosts of a past podcast called The Bright Side. And hopefully we can get them on the show. That'd be really fun to talk about.
That would be so fun.
I think we talked about it before. We have like a really cool topic in mind, and it'll be really fun. We'll video it and everything. Yeah. And we'll social distance, or we'll do it over Zoom, whatever we need to do. But this has been a really fun experience. Also to upgrade like this, because I always wanted to like try this whole thing out, and I've seen other podcasts and everything. It makes me feel like a cooler Joe Rogan.
Cooler?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
We went and looked at like legit podcasting equipment at Guitar Center.
I felt like such an idiot asking all these questions. Yeah.
But then I was like, but if we get that whole setup, I can't kick back in my chair like this and be super lazy like I am.
Because the arm will come up and you'll have to talk like this and we'll have to be like this.
I can't imagine that I could be comfortable.
Or we'll have to like sit in front of a table and like look at each other like this.
So proper.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's really hard for me to sit with my feet on the ground. It just is.
Yeah.
I have to have at least one leg up on the chair all the time.
Yeah.
It's just how it has to be.
It's the class deficiency. I get it.
Yeah. It's a thing.
So thank you everybody for listening to the last one. And this week we have a brand new topic. The name of it that we're going with is Accepting Artistry. And the idea that where we started as dancers, we never thought we would get to a point where we would be teaching around the world, let alone be in music videos or having a podcast or all this different kind of stuff. But we feel like through our time together and apart, we've learned what it means to be an artist for ourselves.
Right, and I think that the title of an artist, especially for Lindy Hoppers, is something that's really difficult to accept.
Totally.
And so it's about how do we come to accept that we are artists and what does that mean to us? So that's what we're going to explore today.
We're going to jump right into it because we don't have that quick money yet, so you're not going to get an ad right now. Or MeUndies. I'll take some MeUndies.
MeUndies would be great.
Anybody listening
Would be
out
a
there.
matching MeUndies.
Ooh. Ooh. I want to feel comfy. I think I saw some the other day. It was like a Star Wars one that I actually liked. I'm talking about way too much. We're not getting any money for this, goddammit. Okay, so jumping right into it. We thought we would define for ourselves what we would think an artist was way back when we were kids, before we ever dreamed of doing all this stuff as a professional living. We were doing it like, I feel like for me, I'm talking for myself, it was like a side hustle. It was like this fun thing, and we could do it on Wednesday nights or weekends or Fridays and just go out and have a good time. But
a hobby.
And I think through time, I felt like an artist was something that wasn't attainable for someone like me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea that I was kid from Orange County. That story doesn't sound any fun. And also, like, it never felt right to be a dancer or a Lindy Hopper in particular and call myself an artist or make myself a professional. Mostly because a lot of the people that did, the very few people that did, I didn't really like them or their dancing or their choices they made, and I didn't want to be like that. But I think throughout time of artists, I feel like they've done this like amazing things, like paint and chisel and do these like installation arts around the world, you know, like the big yellow umbrellas. In California. If you remember that one, then good. But if not, I'm not gonna get into it. But like that's artistry to me, like doing these big, magnificent artworks out for the public's consumption. I'm like, I don't know if I could ever do that. Yeah. But it does sound interesting.
I always felt that artists, I can't talk today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I always thought that artists were these like ethereal, extraordinary beings that were just born that way. Right. And they were just born to create. And I never saw myself as an artist, ever. I come from a very like sports-minded, meat and potatoes kind of family, and that was just not a thing. I just never thought that, even though I was always very interested in the arts, I never considered it was something that I could ever be. It just seems so far-fetched. Like I said, I thought that was something like people were just born with these artistic talents. Like I knew I couldn't draw. I know I can't sing, you know, so for me, it's like, well, getting into dancing, it took a long time to start to think of the art behind the dance, because so much of it, especially when we're starting out, is technical. It's learning. So it's really hard to think creatively, you know, early on.
And I think that brings us into the next kind of idea of this is the finding out the troubles or the blocks in our mind or in our vicinity, whether we grew up in Orange County or, you know,
Victorville.
in the Victorvilles of the high desert. That can be really hard to get out of, I hear.
It's true.
So I congratulate you for getting out of there.
I escaped.
But I think the troubles in general, like when you bring up sports and everything, like definitely I had the same idea. But when I think back now, I think of like someone like Pele or Maradona, like the guy who just passed away. Yeah. Who was consumed with turmoil, but like still died a legend of Argentina. And then on top of that, like every other baseball or football star that you know out there, knowing what I know now and looking back, I'm like, those were artists.
Yeah.
Those are artists to me because they created a moment in time that was shared by a huge community, and they'll have that memory forever. And I feel like that can be artistry in itself. Working passionately for something, a goal, and in this case, the sports sense, a goal is really a goal, a point, meeting the end zone, making the ball into the hoop zone. I think, I mean, even with the Super Bowl just happening, like that is very emotional, and we both talked about that before. Like it's in a culmination of a lot of dreams, and then they show like little kids like playing in the backyard, and then all of a sudden there they are, like being the quarterbacks of like these amazing teams. But I think the trouble is with not just Americans, but I'm gonna definitely focus on a little more on Americans. But like I think the trouble is that we make this glass ceiling for ourselves, and I've used this analogy before, where it's just like this glass ceiling that like we can see through it. We can see that like stars are born up there, but we think we can't pass through it.
Right, it's not attainable.
Yeah. But then as Americans, we have so many artists. You know, I'm looking at the wall right here next to us, and you have the Doors and like Jim Morrison and everybody like that pass through that. They get through all of their troubles just so they can make it up there. And it's so far and few in between, yes, but like honestly, like if you don't even think about it as a glass ceiling anymore, you are able to break through so many more barriers, because we're all going to make our own little barriers getting on the way there, or goals, whatever way you want us to think of it. And I think that in itself can be a trouble, and like that can stifle a lot of people from actually seeing it through and becoming and feeling like they are an artist.
Right. I think that if you don't grow up in an artistic family, it definitely feels like it's completely unattainable. And I think that's where I come from. And I was an athlete. I played, soccer. I also did things like drill team and things like that. But it was very like regimented. Everything I did was very regimented. I never considered myself like an innovator in soccer. That wasn't a thing. So everything art was so out of my reach. And I think that I always admired artists so much. And I've always felt that my mom was very artsy, even though she probably would say she's not. Just her like craftiness that I would see, or her ability to help me with school projects. I would see like her vision of how things would be, and she just had such a clear artistic view of that. And that's kind of what I always hoped I would take away, was to be able to do those kind of things with my kids, to have that kind of artistic side. I never ever anticipated I would go this other route.
Speaking of,
Junie, would you like to come say hi? He forgot we're recording.
Yeah, I think he forgot. He's probably hungry.
Probably in his underwear again too.
He wants to play a video game on his PS4, and he's like, oh.
Oops. Running back upstairs.
So the idea of parents, especially like that whole idea, I consider, again, it's like in hindsight, like your parents were artsy, but also like really hard workers, and that passion. I
don't think my parents were artsy though. That's a thing.
But I think they realized it in the music they like.
I think my dad was very into music, and that inspired me a lot. And a lot of my musical influences are because of my dad. But
see, that's what I mean. Like that. I mean, and it's artsy. Like you can realize it, recognize it, see it through somebody else's eyes. Like especially with music. Yeah. And I feel like
you can see how it affects them.
Exactly. Right. And then it affects us in a certain way as well. Like I feel my mom's like hard work ethic, like crazy, but like passionate work ethic, like showed me that like you can push through these barriers as long as you work really hard. Something good will come out. If not, something different will come out. And then my dad being exactly the same way as your dad, like listening to so many types of music, and like such an education from like everything on that wall back there is like exactly the same thing for me. But he was also an artist.
Right, I was gonna say, but your dad's an actual artist.
Yeah, he's like really, really, really freaking good, and that was always around.
But how does that shape your perception of him as an artist?
I think I consider him an artist, and I kind of diminished my feeling of it, especially a long time ago. We've talked about this before, where I would feel like my dad and my brother are both really good at drawing, like really good at painting, really good at making crafty things, and I was like, I was left over here in the cold being like, I want to play too. I can draw. It's my dad got me like this light table where like a light so I can trace everything and be like, look, I did it too. No, I drew Aladdin. Yeah, I know he's like 2 inches, but like it's fine. Like I did it. And, and then you helped me to realize a while back ago that just because my passions didn't align with theirs doesn't mean I wasn't an artist as much as they are, and my canvas happened to be myself and my dancing. And that was, again, like that was a trouble. Like I couldn't perceive it that way. I saw someone else as an artist and not myself. And that's a big barrier to cross and a big threshold to meet.
That's one of those things, and I think that kind of brings us to our next topic, which would be, when did you start to realize that you were an artist?
No, you.
No, you.
No, you. You're the first one on the list.
Oh, man. Mikey takes really, really good notes, and he has to put them in really big font so that I can see them
from across the table.
I don't have my glasses on.
If you ever want to mess with her, do one of 2 things. One, stand really far away and try to hold up a sign. It's hilarious. And then the other one is just pretend if she's listening.
I had LASIK.
It worked real good.
It did. It worked great for about 10 years. And now it's just declining daily. Okay, so I think that as a Lindy Hopper, I never considered myself an artist until after I got into burlesque. And it's kind of, I came about it at a really roundabout way. I think as a Lindy Hopper, I was always attached to another person.
Right.
I was always attached to a partner. And I felt like I was always adapting to a partner. And this is those earlier days. Where I was still so new, but I was taken under the wing of so many advanced dancers like you and Nick and just so many people in our local scene. And so I always felt like I was learning. I wasn't an artist, I was learning. Right. I never made a point to form my own decisions and thoughts about the dance until I actually started teaching.
Right.
And even then, like early on as a teacher, I felt like I was regurgitating things that I heard other people say. Like,
what are you doing with that rock step? And you're thinking back about like past lessons.
What have I been told?
Here's the thing: is someone told me 2 years ago.
But then, I think you start to figure out your own thoughts and feelings on what you think works for you and what you believe in the dance. And that's, I think, where it starts. But I didn't accept that. I didn't realize it. It wasn't until I got into the burlesque scene, which forced me to be a soloist, which forced me to think completely 100% from the ground up, from the music, costume, order of operations, performance. And at the same time I started performing, I started producing in the same show.
Real quick. Explain to the kids what burlesque is. Not your kids, the kids that are listening at home.
Burlesque is fancy stripping.
Perfect. It's the best thing.
Yeah.
I think, well, you told me that a long time ago, and I was like, finally, I can say it. Like, it's okay. I thought it was like this hidden thing.
They are one and the same.
Yeah.
And anybody who says they are not, I wholeheartedly disagree with. There's a saying that I love, and that it's strippers make money and burlesque dancers make costumes. And it's so true. And
so true.
We can always hope for more, but it is what it is. So anyway, when I started performing burlesque, it was the exact same show that I started producing. And I had been performing in burlesque shows for a long time in a chorus girl group. And I was around it. I knew what it was. I was interested in it, like kind of like tiptoe, like it's the typical story, right? You start in the chorus and then you end up a soloist.
Start in the chorus, you love the glitter, you start looking at the costumes, and you start to buy your own little diamonds and little crystals, and all of a sudden, whoops, there goes my bra.
Kind of like that, but what happens when you're not only a burlesque performer, but a burlesque producer, you're curating your persona. You're curating what it is that you're putting out into the world, and you're curating the show from top to bottom and the people that you have in your show. And so I feel like that's when I started to accept that I'm thinking of this as an art. I'm thinking of myself as an artist, and I'm accepting that. And it took a lot of time, you know, as we said, as Lindy Hoppers, it's really hard for Lindy Hoppers to accept the fact that they're artists, especially early on.
Yeah. Especially, I think the idea in Lindy Hop is a couple different things. Like, obviously, I can't speak on burlesque. I can speak on a perception of it, being helping you produce things and being in the stage management of it all. But I think with Lindy Hop, the partner thing is a really, really big thing that doesn't necessarily get talked about a lot. And I think it gets talked about in the diminished roles that followers are given, unfortunately, that we've now tried in our later years to put a spotlight on.
Yeah.
And I think the rest of the community has as well, as I feel that a lot of Lindy Hoppers, the really, really most amazing ones that I think of first are follows.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really true testament to not only us, but the rest of our generation to be able to push that forward.
And I think that kind of started to change with our generation.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of the last of the leaders first, you know?
Oh, totally.
And I unfortunately felt the brunt of that a lot in my Lindy Hop career. But that was how it was at the time. And it's amazing nowadays to see female Lindy Hoppers getting top billing as soloists.
And I think that's like a whole subject in itself that we could talk about another time. And in the same aspect of it all, discovering what it means to be an artist and realizing that it's not a end goal. It's not the artist isn't the finish line and you're there. Now what? Like, that sounds completely contrary to me, and I feel like that drives people crazy.
Yeah.
Or drives people to think very highly of themselves and then have very, very bad anxiety about it. Speaking on my own cases, especially because I feel like once I felt like, let me back up one step. In the Lindy Hop world, I feel like the end all job and point of you made it is like you being able to teach and teaching at these places around the world and being called upon and asked for. And I think that's great, but that's one of the many stages that can possibly happen. And I feel like I can only say that now because I've been there and was going like, what now? Yeah. You know, and while it was amazing and I've made great experiences and really horrible experiences as well, but like at the same time, like, and everything in between, I think now looking back, it's like, I shouldn't have thought of it that way. And if we can impart anything on this podcast at this moment right now, it's that there are levels to it. Like, for instance, if we tell people as they begin Lindy hopping or burlesque, like you did your first class, great, you're like a finger painter now. Like, you're like starting out this stuff. You're going to, what is it called? Like easels and wine or something like that? Yeah, you know, where you go out and you drink and you just paint with friends. Like, remember Friends?
Remember going out?
Yeah. But I think, oh man, I would kill for one of those right now.
I know.
But I think that is a beginning stage. Like, if you go out and you didn't know you had this skill and all of a sudden you start showcasing it in this nice way and you get a compliment, like, that's another goal right there. You get a compliment right away. And I think that translates into many different stages, and it translates directly over to social media. And the idea that you can put something out there. The canvas is whatever you make it to be, whether it be a video, a picture, I don't know, like a time-lapse thing or a silly thing. We've seen so many, like, crack up so hard on some reels.
Can sit there, my son and I sit there with, and even me, sit there with reels and just die laughing in the innovation and the hilarity that people are putting out there. It's insane. It's incredible.
Right before that, it was like everything posting any kind of videos or like memes. And then right before that was like all the stuff on YouTube. Like one of the first like comedic groups, I forget the name right off the top of my head, but Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, became one of his like first stepping stones into the industry of everything he does, was becoming part of this troupe that was on YouTube. Like that itself for me is like telling me so many times. Imagine how many artists you know, like musicians or anything else, they started in this field. Like, this is the new way of being discovered or putting yourself out there, or in my case, what I think of it as a canvas.
Okay, so I think that's a good segue to your story.
Yeah.
And you've done all kinds of things between Lindy Hop and you had your vlog and you had your other podcast. And like you've felt this need to put yourself out there.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, I think it also came from like understanding that there's been other people that have tried it, and I loved picking apart the things that I liked and like putting it together. Like the idea of YouTube and the idea of a vlog or a video log became because I watched this guy named Phil DeFranco. I still do.
Yeah.
I still watch it like 15 years later.
I know.
I tell you about it every day. I'm like, I listen to this thing on YouTube, and I'm like, I know she knows what I'm talking about when I just tell you.
Friend.
Yeah, we'll get on that time. Anyway, so I listen to podcasts too much and I call him my friend. So, anyways, I listen to this thing called Phil DeFranco, and he does like his take on the news. And I was trying to do the same thing with Lindy Hop, and I was trying to do it like once a month. And it was such a big thing, and I made it so much bigger and so much more complicated than I needed to that it kind of like shut me off to it. But I learned so many things, like how to use iMovie and how to use like editing software to like do these different little things, and how to make myself sound better, how to light myself a little better with like just like little lamps on a what's that called?
That's a fan.
On a fan. And all sorts of little things. But then that translated into other social medias like Facebook and Instagram, and like just being interested to see what's out there and who's doing what, and seeing what kind of inspiration I can get from other people, especially comedians, especially people that like put themselves out there and like sit in front of a video camera or like a phone or whatever, and just like goes and goes and they cut it, and it's just like such a cool thing. I definitely feel like I started using a lot of platforms very early on, and I don't by any means see myself as a professional at that, but I consider myself like a finger painter in the idea of social media, enthusiast, as it is on my Instagram. But I think in general, like that helps me realize it even more, like that if I just put myself into it, like put a part of myself into it, like dedicate it, or passion, or like whatever you want to call it, time and effort, then I only get what I give in. So if I'm giving in just a little bit, then I'm just gonna like maybe one cool little thing about it, like maybe one video that like really pops and people really dig, or something like that. Or I'll put in a lot of time, a lot of effort to try to understand things and see what works, comedic timing, dance timing, just putting something else for someone else, like we did the Atomic Video Showcase, and we did a whole video production for students and their teachers outdoors in different places, and I feel like I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of that stuff, produce a lot of that stuff, if it wasn't for the stuff I'd done way before. So even if I didn't see the point of using that skill way back then, I did use it just recently, and I'm like, whoa, okay, so there's some sense there. So now I can go to the next level of what that meant of my artistry, or the thing I'm passionate about.
So when did you actually start to consider yourself an artist?
Oh man, it wasn't even until like what I consider recently, like in the last like 5 years, I would say. Like
I think that's consistent with myself too.
And I think for me, it wasn't until I started doing the Lindy Hop thing, as in like traveling and teaching and dancing the way I wanted to do it. I was finding that I was not having fun with it anymore, and it felt like too much of the job I didn't want to go to, and I know that was wrong for myself. And not saying like that like I shouldn't do that job anymore, but like it's like that's a weird feeling. So I wanted to rework everything, and one of the things that came to my mind was something you said to me a long time ago, which is the idea is like I want to do this the way I want to do this.
Right.
You know, it doesn't mean like fuck everybody. I'm going to West Coast. No, it's like it's more like
right.
Being able to say no to a gig because I need a time off, or being able to take a gig because I want to go there and I want to spend a little time and I want to get to know these people, and I have friends there, or like I tell friends to go there. Like when you're excited about the thing you're about to go to, a goal, then you want to tell everybody else that you want to go, and then all it does is create a community within another community that builds on each other and then supports everybody else. So I feel like at that point, I started to call myself a creator. I still couldn't tell myself I was an artist. I was like, I'm creating things, I'm creating moods, I'm creating stuff, like all the stuff I could create with Kevin. Like that was a chapter, but like I think at the same time, it was definitely in that same time. I'm creating things, I'm doing fun things, or making people funny, or making fun videos for people to consume around this culture. So that's when I started to consider that's another level. Okay, cool. I'm almost there to like the artistry. But what about you? How did you start feeling that way?
Oh.
Or when did you? Was there a specific moment?
I would say it was a couple years into burlesque. Lindy Hop had kind of taken a backseat at that point. And then I started to ramp up my Lindy Hop again with another partner while you were traveling the world. And I felt I was finding myself very stifled as a follow and feeling like I didn't really have a voice. And then I would go social dancing, and I would just have these nights where I would just dance my ass off, and things would come out that I had never done before, I've never thought about, and I started to feel like, okay, there's more happening here. And it really started to come about when I was doing all this, creating new acts for burlesque. And the coolest thing about burlesque is that we perform the same acts over and over and over again. And they change every time we do them. They change based on the vibe of the audience. They change based on the interaction with the audience. And so just getting more and more comfortable improvising. Is
it more choreographed or is it more improvised? What would you think it is for yourself?
It's different for everybody. For me, I would say it's usually about maybe 70% choreographed, sometimes less. Just because you never know. And something can go wrong with a costume and you got to improvise. Something could go wrong with the audience, or something could go really, really right and you're just in the moment and you want to roll with it. So I think getting better at improvising, I found that starting to cross over into my social dancing, and I started to find this freedom that I never had before, and I started to claim it for myself. And I started to recognize that this was me. This was me creating. This was me creating art.
In the moment.
In the moment, yeah. And sometimes I could call on it later, that improv, and sometimes I couldn't. And I've always had this Shaysha Marvin quote in my head since I first started dancing. And that's, dance is art and art is moody. And I truly wholeheartedly believe that. And I think that you can attribute that to, let's say you have a horrible day of work and you go out dancing and you just have the best time. You're able to let go, and it shifts your mood.
Totally.
And you're creative and you're inspired, but then the opposite can happen too. You can have a horrible day and then you go dancing and nothing works. Right? So I feel like your artistry can ebb and flow with your emotions, and I started to really accept and pay attention to those things. And I found that I was allowing myself not only freedom to improvise when I was dancing, but freedom to pause and take time teaching when I was in a class situation, right? Like take a moment to really think about what I felt and be clear. I was finding that just everywhere across the board. I started to just pay attention and notice that my emotions were affecting everything.
So it's very poignant about that, because we talked about that about our last one too, and how much we tend to pause and how it's noticeable, but also it's like it's a couple different thoughts. One, it's the thought that we need to be as fast as our 30-minute sitcoms that we watch, and we need to have the answer for it immediately, but really we don't work like that. Our life isn't a TV show, and it's not a movie where people know and scripted. We have to be thoughtful, and the more at peace you can be with thinking and being mindful, I think in general, will take you to a whole nother level of being, and then you can apply that to everything in life. So not just the artistry of dance or performing, but just being at a restaurant and being mindful with a person and being understanding that thing. So I feel like a lot of that stuff we're talking about crosses over and ends up being more like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Not saying that it's not really good to really section off your brain and think about this one thing, but it's just once you do that, I feel like a lot of the times we'll take that energy and we'll spread it all across our life, as in every aspect, whether it's from sad to happy and everything in between. Every emotion needs to come and play. And we talked about it the other day too, is like with the yin yang,
right?
And the idea that like it's not good and evil. That's the misconception. It's like more the thoughtful and the spiritual, or the mind and your soul.
Right. We talked about this specifically about rehearsals.
Yes.
Because we have this, when you walk into a rehearsal space where it's fluorescent lights and it's a big open floor and it's just us, and now we just have each other in the room, and I know that I feel super stifled by that situation. Whereas if we're at Joe's, which is a dive bar in LA where we used to go dancing, we just did that at the same time. But you're in a dark room, maybe you've had a drink, you're surrounded by other people. It kind of allows for that, that improv, that artistic vibe to just naturally flow.
There's so many writers and like great screenplay writers as well, screenplay writers that would always have their spot at a bar, and like they have their best epiphanies then. You know, like, and that's a whole other thing, like where and when and what time and what feeling you have to be in to do all that stuff. But I think I want to go back to just a thing you said before, where like sometimes you go out and you have the best night ever and you don't know where it came from, or you're going there and you want to have that, or you're already in a bad mood and it sends you in a worse mood, or you're already in a bad mood and it gets you in a better mood. I think a lot of that, like for me, that when I hear that, it's something that I also think about in my time in traveling around Europe a lot, was like going to museums and seeing a lot of exhibits being like the early days of who we consider as artists now that have passed away, in their journals and their sketchbooks. And you can see these kind of like outlines and just these little books and like in pen or pencil rather, and then you can see like an outline of something, and then all of a sudden it like flashes forward in the next part of the exhibit like 10 years later, and then there it was. And even then that artist is never happy with that. And they're just thinking like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that and like whatever. So like understanding that like that is a point in time, especially in the dance scene, that is a point in time that's past. Don't live in that moment or through that moment. Live to the next moment. That one already passed. But I think in the same time is that's how I attribute it. If I'm going into a studio atmosphere and a feeling there, like I know I'm not gonna make a beautiful masterpiece piece of art. Like it's gonna be a, oh my God, what the fuck did I just do? Like, and then I turn to you and like, how did I do that?
And like, what do you need me to do?
I don't know. What do you need me to do? Because I don't know what I just figured out. 5 times
what
over.
What is your plan?
So many times where I'm like, I have 5 different ideas in my head and I can't decide on which one. And like, and that's not a push on me in the sense of like, oh, look, I came up with 5 moves. No, I came up with 5 moves, but I can't remember what the 5 moves were. Like it's such a crazy thing, and I go in there every time knowing that I feel deficient. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel nervous. I feel anxious. Like I feel a certain way. But when I start dancing, in any moment, I'm like looking at you, I'm connecting with you, I'm connecting with the music, and I can be anywhere in the world. And it doesn't matter, because I'm trying to be within this moment, because it's so easy to fall in that moment. And then the wellspring starts to flow, and all this stuff just starts coming out. And sometimes I can catch it, and sometimes I pretend to catch it. Sometimes I have no idea what it is, and sometimes it just catches me and it blows me over. And I feel like we have to go through those moments, all of us, in different ways. Obviously, I know you go through it a different way, but I know for me, like I just have to like roll up my sleeves and roll up my pants and like get in there and try to figure it out as best I can.
Something that I think was really, really beneficial for me that I started doing over the past couple of years, so I would just go into the studio myself. I would put on the party lights, and I would put on music. Not music that I would typically dance to. Definitely not Lindy Hop music. It was usually like the band Two Face, or something like super moody. Super moody that would just kind of move me. And I would always record. I would set up my camera and I would just dance around, and I would try to do things that are outside of my comfort zone. And this was definitely more burlesque vibes, you know. But it really helped me discover how I move and get comfortable with how I move and how I improvise, so that we could start to take those things, or I could start to take those things to the stage. And that's a thing that when we practice in the studio, I still have a hard time with, because I am attached to you, and I am trying to be the best follow I can be, which is, you know, again, feed into us from our upbringing in the dance.
Like you said, we're the last generation that was like lead centric.
But that's the thing. I'm still always fighting.
Absolutely.
When I'm social dancing, it's not there.
Yeah.
But we're in a studio setting, it definitely creeps in.
Yeah. And that's the kind of like I feel like we put ourselves out there and like everything's hunky dory, everything's great, but you know, like we don't
30 seconds out of a 2-hour rehearsal.
Yeah, and like I'm not saying we fight or anything, but like definitely we get to a point where we're just like, I don't know what you mean, you don't know what I mean.
Nothing's
what
working.
Do we do?
Yeah.
But that's part of the process, and that's okay. But I think at the same time, everything you just said about like you going to the studio and burlesque and everything is exactly the same thing that I've adopted.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel that has only made us a little bit better every time. Like we get in there, maybe dance once or twice, and then video a little bit, and then pick it apart, and then maybe come up with a routine, or maybe just keep dancing. Like we can go in so many different ways. But I think in general, like videoing and trying to capture lightning in a bottle in that way might be really, really good. And I think through that process, us growing as our process grows, I feel like we're able to get to another stage in this whole sense of artistry and accepting it more and more every time.
Right.
That whole thing being said, now we kind of crossed already into it. It's like how do we feel about being an artist, or do we even call ourselves an artist? So do you call yourself an artist? Or what
I do. And I think that, it is a difficult thing to accept. I do consider myself an artist. I think that everything in my life is approached from an artistic view. I think the way that I think about business, I think that the way that I think about Lindy Hop, or the way that we, as a partnership, produce what we do, I think is an art. I think producing my show is an art.
What's the show?
Muse Burlesque. Well, we're on hiatus indefinitely because obviously.
Yeah, but even then, like I want to touch on that real quick, because the idea is that we did 3-4 shows during the pandemic for Muse.
Yes, we did.
We did 2 outside, socially distanced, like outside of Atomic Ballroom in the parking lot.
One outside of Atomic and one outside of
2 in one night. I'm still counting that. I'm still counting that. 2 in one night. And then we went to downtown Santa Ana, which they had a whole setup. They closed down the street for these 2 bars.
Copper on 3rd.
And we set up a stage, and we put on a show, socially distanced again. We were so afraid because of any social backlash, but also at the same time, we don't want anybody to get sick.
Yeah,
that was our most important thing. And I think through the idea of, sorry, I'm just going to steamroll over you because that was the point of view, and
I'm
then
going to just drink this.
Yep. I think through your vision of like what it could be during these matters and trying to make this whole thing work, again, your canvas being this strange time we're living in, you accomplished a lot, and it was really great to see it, because I know a lot of doubt creeps in and anxiety creeps in, but you still held steadfast, and it made everybody else feel better about it.
There's also a reason why I haven't done it since. Like
exactly.
It's I love producing shows more than anything else.
Right.
Shows and events. That's my favorite. Besides like social dancing and performing, I love to produce, and it's just so nerve-wracking to feel that I'm putting anybody at risk in any way, by even if we're social distance, even if we're wearing masks, even if we're spaced out in dressing room situation. Like it's
stressful.
It would kill me if somebody got sick, and I don't want that for anybody. So the anxiety of all of that definitely stopped that. But also I love to perform in other people's live stream shows. But
you found the artistry in that now.
Yeah, but I'm not really interested in producing a live stream show, but I love what people are coming up with for live stream shows. I've got to come up with some things that I never ever would have had the opportunity to do on a burlesque stage. It would never happen. I mean, we're out in the elements, you know, we're in the ocean.
Yeah, that along with so many other friends that you see doing the same thing, like Mizan and Anita and Egypt. Like with that whole show featuring all black artists in burlesque. It was so beautiful. We'll talk about this a whole nother time, especially we're planning to have some burlesque artists on the show so we can talk to them about what they've done in the pandemic and how they find their artistry and how it's maybe pivoted in sometimes. But I think also another way that I've seen in you through burlesque was during the shows, during pre-pandemic, you would grab the microphone and talk on the microphone, and you had this like, I always call it your real voice. Little do you anybody knows she has a real voice, and you're hearing it right now because it's liquor gets her quicker.
It's my first glass.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but you're definitely, when you start drinking, you definitely have this confidence boost, and I think that's the positive thing. I'm not saying it always happens. What I'm saying is that was one of the reasons I'm like, I know you can call upon this. It doesn't just take some liquor. I was just making it as a joke.
Thoughts.
Yeah, you have thoughts. I think if it wasn't for those times, and plus more of your past in general, building the confidence up, having you become the MC of Inspiration Weekend was just like the easy slam dunk.
God damn, that was fun.
I know.
Fuck, I am missing that. Right now, this time of year, we're normally producing Inspiration Weekend, which is our...
Producing. Inspiration Weekend. I get it.
Producing. Inspiration Weekend. Where I got to MC last year, which was insane.
It was awesome. It was great. And I think in this culture, again, transferring over from a lead-centric thing to a more inclusive everybody thing, especially for women, like I think it was like the best move we could have made as Inspiration Weekend. But not only that, like you killed it. Like you did great. And I'm so glad like you got to feel a thing that I felt before, where it's like, I have power. Everyone will listen to me, and also you will laugh because I'm funny. It happens that way.
I rhinestoned my mic.
Yeah, you did.
Like, don't touch my mic.
I just. It's exactly. No male in the booth was like. Everyone was like, why is this? They didn't know what to do with themselves. It was like someone like held their penis for the first time. They're like, what's going on? What's it here? What? Oh, okay. Here you go. Anyways, but I saw it today, and I was like, I almost brought it too.
You should have brought it. I should be holding a rhinestone mic right now.
That's the wireless mic. I don't know how to use wireless.
Okay.
I know it'll plug into here, but anyways.
All right, but enough about me.
Enough about you.
It's been awesome. Do you guys know that Mikey's like really good at editing, like songs and videos, and I am so thankful that he figured out how to use a gimbal.
Yeah.
A gimbal, if you don't know, it's like a Steadicam for an iPhone.
Yeah.
And they're incredible. And the reason I've been able to do so many live stream shows throughout the pandemic is because Mikey's really fucking good at a gimbal and editing. And these are things that I am not good at all. All of this stuff that it takes to set this up, I am happily washing my hands of it. Letting you take the
patting my back, kind of like, yay.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Keep going. Keep talking about it.
But you've taken on so much. Between, like, I didn't know you could edit videos like that. I was watching him edit a video for one of our student showcases, and I was just like, how do you know how to do that?
It's a lot of hotkeys, and also like seeing what I want to get to, and then like, okay, I just need 5 seconds here. What can I do for 5 seconds? I think thank you, first of all. Like it's been such like a crazy thing this past year, especially having like dormant I don't know, talents, dormant things that I haven't used in a long time. Artistry. I guess. See, it's so hard for me to call it that. But it's like dormant little things that I've had, and then I can bring forward and actually make something really cool along in the process. And this goes along with our last podcast as well. Like, it's a team of people that really make a thing happen. Anything you see out there, absolutely, there is one artist, there is an amazing person that is the front person, that is the driving force of everything. But at the same time, there's like a team of people that helps them do that. Yeah. So like, I don't think I'm just like self-made by any means. I think it's like a little bit from learning from my like high school teacher who egged me on. There's like high school friends who were better than me and taught me lessons that are still used today. Yeah. And then on top of that, watching other people on YouTube doing different things, or watching a master class that happens to be on YouTube that someone put out there, like, or talking to my friend Brett Dollenberg, like, who is just an amazing editor and like makes it look super easy. And I was like, not to say like, not to mention, but he can do it. No,
he's also paid to do
it. Yeah, he's also paid to do it. Like, he's incredible.
He's legit.
But I think for me, the idea that I'm able to have like these other talents like start to come out more, really is a confidence boost. And then at the same time, it's like, well, I finally get to do all these other things I've always wanted to, with the same energy and passion and drive that I had to do for dancing, for Lindy Hop stuff for me, into these other things, and now I can really see them out. So I'm always searching out for more opportunities now, especially during the pandemic, and that's how I pivoted a lot. And like, this is a part of it. Like, I've always wanted to work with a board like this and like all this stuff. It's just, and even though right now, like, we're not touching it or anything, but we did a lot of setup. I know you heard me. I was like, test 1, 2, test. It's like trying to be super loud to see where the levels were and everything.
Like, what are you doing in there? Knock it off. It's so loud.
And I think it's kept me sane.
Yeah.
I think the sanity really can be confused with like going and saying it's not about that. It's like, it's just not letting myself fall in like such a deep depression. But like, of course, there's always the sadness of losing out so many things in this past year. But this has helped me kind of refocus a lot of things, taking the time to do all these things that I've always wanted to do, and put myself out there in a different way, like put my energy into it in a different way, and try to have this hypothesis of that idea and then put it into play. And I think through all that, I've been able to fall into another sense of artistry, another sense of that I don't have to be in front of the camera all the time. I don't have to be on the microphone all the time, even though I should be on the microphone all the time. I took both microphones and I sort of out my mouth.
You're such a jerk.
I'm such an idiot. Anyway, so I think part of everything is the experience, right? And as everybody says, right, it's not the end goal, it's the experience. But I really do like, it's not the end goal, it's all the goals it takes to get there. And I think the levels of artistry is infinite if you really see it more like a tree as opposed to a ladder. And a tree just grows out and through and around and to the sides and down to the ground and up again and all around. So I think in that sense of it, like it becomes more real, it becomes more tangible.
Right.
Like a tree growing is defying gravity, and like if we define ourselves as that tree, then we can defy gravity as well.
I think that if you want to see how some performance artists have pivoted through this time, definitely follow some burlesque artists on Instagram or TikTok, because they are putting out some incredible content. And Frankie Fictitious, who is our queen, she just put out this awesome TikTok video that she was like, meet the team.
Yeah, we're totally doing that.
Yeah, it was her going like, producer, and it's her. Director, it's her. Video editing, it's her. Costume,
it's her. Yeah.
You know, and it's
talent agent.
Exactly. Like we've all had to switch focus and put on all the hats and learn to do all kinds of new things.
Absolutely.
During all of this, and I'm not gonna say, like Mikey mentioned this before, it's not all like happy-go-lucky. Like we've definitely had some like down times through all of this where we're like forcing each other to get moving. But at the same time, I think that we've done pretty well, you know, like staying busy and staying creative throughout all of this against the odds, which has been really amazing.
And I think it leads into the last couple things here, but in that closing of it all, remember that artistry and passion and all that stuff is only really great if it helps you see a world that you want to live in. Like you're creating something that you want others to experience with you. And you can't always control that experience because it's up to the viewer. But what you can do is create such a vibe that it can't help but be felt. And it kind of reminds me of this thing I used to say. I don't know if it makes sense for you. Like you probably won't, because it has to do with anime. It's like exactly. Fancy Asian cartoons. Yeah. And so in particular, like Dragon Ball Z, like everything, they grow up a lot of energy around them, and it shines an aura around them, and everyone around them is affected by it. And I'm not saying that just to be funny, even though it is funny, because they're like squeezing out a poop, like it's like but I think the idea is sound. Eastern philosophy, that's where they take all of their inspiration from for all those anime cartoons. amazing works of art is that it's based on the idea that if you shine brightly, then other people will follow, other people will be inspired, other people will then, help you create the world that you want to live in and they want to live in as well. I think if anything that we're doing makes anybody smile for even just a second, or like us, or do anything in the sense of like send us support or send another person support or send a video to somebody else, like the I Need You video is going so massively.
It's like over 3 million views or
every
something.
Day,
insane like that.
every day there's always a new something that comes out and is like, this made my day. I'm like, oh my God, I was a part of that. I helped bring that vision to life with all these other people, and I hope we all feel the same way. This is beautiful. That's what art is meant to do.
I think it's also important to say that if you have not had the energy to create during all of this, and you feel like the world is passing you by, you are not alone.
Absolutely.
Like, we go through that all the time. We're all stuck in this. We've been very fortunate to push each other through a lot of things when we didn't want to, a lot of the time. But we recognize that it's not that easy. And if you have done nothing but work from home and watch all of Netflix and eat lots of popcorn, like, good for you. I'm a little bit jealous of you.
Seriously. Oh my God.
I think it's important to know that that's totally okay, and you don't have to feel like you have to be creating all the time, even if you are a creative. And I think that that's something that we struggle with a lot too. Like, oh, we're not doing enough. We got to do more. We got to get on Reels, because Reels are the new thing. Like, whatever it is, TikTok. We got to get on TikTok. And I definitely don't have fucking energy for TikTok.
It's a daily thing. It's a daily thing. We're like so happy that people share TikToks onto Instagram, because then we're like, cool, I don't have to go over there and look at it. This is perfect.
But it's okay. I think that's super important. Even if you're an artistic, creative person and you've done nothing during this fucking pandemic, good for you. You don't have to do anything or everything, and that's totally fine. Exactly.
And I think with that, I can only just reiterate exactly what you said. Like, it's so important for everybody to understand. It's not a chase. We're not chasing each other. We're just trying to support each other. The more we support each other, the more all those awesome opportunities will come up. Even if you're just not inspired to, it's totally fine.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like force rehearsals to happen. No, we don't want them.
Exactly. So in closing, what we want to do is we're going to ask each other 3 questions. I will be doing the asking to Nikki first. So here we go.
Typical.
And well, I wrote them. So
and I can't see that.
Yeah, exactly. So. 4 feet in front of you. No, what? How many fingers am I holding up? Nope, that's wrong. Okay,
that's way too far.
So if we were able to use all of our energy and time and effort and everything it takes into everything it took to get us to a point of artistry that we are now, and put it into some other art form, like as a hypothetical, what would you do? Or maybe like a dream. What other
That's
art
really
form?
Interesting. I feel like it could be a couple different things. I know that before I got into dancing, when I was in college, before I quit for dancing, don't go to school, kids.
And then you quit college for dancing, right?
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Before I quit for dancing, don't do that. Go to school. School is good.
I told you you wanted to go.
Yeah. Not going to school is great. I really wanted to go into marketing and film.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that I would have found my artistic self through creating advertisements and marketing, because that's still a huge part of my life.
Totally.
With my businesses. And I think that's what it would be. I think that I probably would have gone to school. I had this dream that because I grew up in Victorville, which is the desert, middle of nowhere.
You guys been to Vegas before? You passed through it.
Yeah. I thought that I was going to move to Orange County, and I was going to finish school, and I was going to go work at Disney for marketing. I don't know. It was just like the Orange County thing to do.
The Orange County dream.
I don't know. Who knows?
Welcome, baby. Come on in.
I had family that worked for corporate Epcot, so I kind of idolize that
Totally.
ideal.
Totally. I'm just making jokes, but
Sure,
that's such a great place to be.
Yeah,
And I have so many friends that work there.
But I feel like I could have seen myself actually following through with that if it wasn't for Lindy Hop.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm so much more happy.
I think the answer for me is like actually really easy. I've thought about this a lot of times, and it's varied over time. But right now, around this time, it's always like this. It's I go home and I look at my guitar and I see it sitting up there. I'm like, it's late. And that would be one of the things. I remember practicing hours on end and being like, oh my gosh, I think I just did one song over and over again for like 4 hours. And I think that's where all my time and energy would go to, is trying to be a musician a little bit more. I know I was definitely getting there. Like for a while, I was like writing my own moody songs with my hair that I couldn't flip because it was always going up. My hair never fell in front of my face. It would just go upward. And all this is just product in my hair. Listen.
Well, maybe you should write our theme song.
It would be, she's got hair, he's got hair, yay, we're pretty. We also talk, did you know we're funny?
Maybe don't.
Rhythm and
maybe
blues.
you went
yeah.
like,
So anyways, but yeah, I would try to be a musician and play my guitar more, especially try to do that. Yeah, definitely. I definitely miss it a lot of times, and that's okay. Like it's fine. I look at it, the guitar looks at me, and we go, not
yet. Someday.
Next question. We say during the pandemic, what other ways we found to use art? And I think this one's we've already touched on a little bit.
Yeah, we kind of already talked about it, but I think we have a couple more.
Yeah.
We both, I mean, we've talked about doing video and video productions and those kinds of things, but we've both gotten into photography.
Yes, exactly.
With my camera.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It is so crazy fun.
I did a photo shoot today, actually, which actually turned into 2 photo shoots.
That's how it happens.
That's what happens when a model is the stylist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, can you just like go pose for a minute? Yeah.
I need to balance his colors or something.
Yeah.
I need
but
to
it was
white balance your skin.
It was awesome. I love, I mean, and that's something we didn't talk about as another form of art is modeling.
Absolutely.
And I've done a lot of modeling, and it's so fun to be on the other side of the camera.
Totally.
I didn't know.
Well, I kind of foresee that happening.
I kind of pushed it on
you. I pushed it on you, but like no, like I saw it. You know why?
Why? And
it's gonna sound shitty, but it is shitty. Like you're super critical. You're super critical on mostly yourself.
Yeah.
I'd say like 90%, but like 10% I would be on anything else you see. But the thing is, I'm not going to say judgy because one, it's overused, that word. And two, I think it's a finality. I think I think a critique or being critical on something you see is then acting on it afterwards. Like you're going to hold on to that idea. Oh, I didn't like this thing in this one thing I saw, but then it spurs up, this is what I would do. And then you do it. That's what I think is the healthy difference. It's one thing to be like, well, that sucks, and then that being the end. It's like, well, I didn't like this, or I didn't like the way I held my hand here, so I'm gonna do this again right here, and I'm gonna hold my hand like this because I feel like it looks better. Right. And so I think in that sense, any dancing, any burlesque thing, anything in general, is to see yourself do the thing, and then give yourself the note, or have somebody else you trust give you a note. Then you try that. And I think that's the process, again, through a team, or the process in general of being an artist. Like you have to pass it through something to then kind of feel it out and then get to a final product that you enjoy.
I felt like I was pretty good with an iPhone.
Right.
This is definitely a whole new medium. And
there's more buttons.
Yeah. I'm like, what does this setting do? I'll take some on this setting and see what happens.
Yeah. And watch, we're going to put this out there and people are going to start sending you messages like, here, watch this video.
I know. I took photography in high school.
Who didn't?
And I could never get past, because remember you had to like, you actually process your film. Like you had to put your hands in the bag and you had to like, without looking, do the whole thing, and I could never do it. So I always had somebody do it for me. But I like the other part where you're in the dark. So I kind of let it go because I felt like, it's too hard.
Well, it's gotten a lot easier now.
Well, yeah, digital art is way more accessible.
For sure. So if you have videos and ideas and tutorials for Nikki, go ahead and send it over.
And Mikey. He actually is really good. He grabs my camera and takes all kinds of sweet pictures.
It was super fun. It's super fun. Just grab a phone, and even the phones nowadays are great. So like you can find Artistry in there. Like there's so many different ways and apps and ways to do it. Like don't kid yourself and think that you're not going to become at least, or learn one little thing and then be in the process of being some sort of artist. You're going to learn something.
Yeah.
If you add a little bit of yourself, you'll get that in return.
Mm-hmm.
And the last question right now is your dream art gig job question mark. Your dream thing.
Dream.
I mean, I can go first. I'll give you one.
Okay,
whatever.
go. You go. What's
So,
your
like,
dream gig?
Dream gig would be
job.
like, honestly, like if we were in a show, like whether it be like a stage show or a like TV show, it was like a variety show, and we were just dancers in the back, and then like slowly being a part of the group of everybody being there, because we know how much people are around and teams it makes to make any kind of production happen on stage or TV or anything. But I would have loved to have done something like that and been like, the dancers, yeah, here we go. We do like the 2 minutes of dancing and they barely show us and then we're off. And, like, and I think that spurs mostly just because of my like when I was a kid, thinking about So You Think You Dance.
Yeah.
And like trying to be like wanting to be on that show and like wanting to be there and be the dancer on the show. Like that sounded like an amazing job. And that would be my dream gig.
I think my dream gig would be a choreographer for industry work.
Just so you can have that assistant, huh?
Yeah.
Take notes!
You could be my assistant.
I'm not gonna notes. I'm not gonna notes. Don't kid yourself.
I think as I get older,
yeah.
I don't feel the need to be in the spotlight as much. And I think if we're speaking like hypothetically future dream job, I think that's where I would rather be like consultant and choreographer and have my assistant and be like 3 turns, instead of doing it myself and saying what I want to happen and creating that, because I feel like I've done a lot of these things and I have a pretty good understanding of what it takes.
I remember a long time ago when we went on Schism Ways.
Schism Ways. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, it's a whole nother podcast. We'll talk about it another time. It'll be a very special episode. It'll be like a Will and Jada episode.
When they stop talking.
Yeah.
For 2 years.
Yeah. That's like 4 or 5. Anyways, the thing that happened was like I saw you do a lot more things in the local business of Hollywood, the showbiz, baby. Like, and I was like, yeah, it's cool. And I remember being burned so many times for myself that I just didn't want to be a part of that. So I left it alone for so long. So it just hit me as you were talking about that, and I was just like, oh yeah, like I didn't want that forever. Like that is a thing now because of doing the music video and doing the couple of the music videos that we've done together. Plus, on top of that, the whole industry changing over to more acceptance and more inclusivity all around. So I'm like, wow, maybe I actually do have a voice here now, and I can speak confidently on a few things that I know I'm good about.
Well, I think there's another side of it to me as well, and I've done those types of industry performances where we're considered background and they just beat the shit out of the dancers.
Oh, totally.
And then I've done the other side where we're principal dancers. And really what it comes down to is the choreographer. And the choreographer has a say in how the dancers are treated. Right. And just seeing that from the other side, I would love to be in that position where I could take care of the dancers. Totally. In that way, Yeah,
absolutely. I think in closing for this whole thing, one thing I want to address in general is because we are Lindy Hoppers, we are definitely humble guests in the culture of Lindy Hop, which is Black. And it should be said every time that we talk about like this. And I think that is part of the reason as Americans, we have sort of this hard time dealing with us being artists and calling ourselves artists in the Lindy Hop community. Right. Because we aren't Black.
Because we feel that we're guests.
And I think in general, I'm not going to speak for you because your experience is very different from my experience. And my experience is that I'm either white or Black, and I feel, I don't feel entitled on anything, but I do feel that I am a guest and I'm very humbled, and I try nothing but to bring the legacy of everything that we've learned and everybody we learned from and everybody who we hold as legends of swing dancing and Lindy Hop with us, and all their struggles and all of the crazy, amazing fairy tale stories. Sometimes they're like, ooh, okay, but then there's also like the real reality. If you read any sort of anthropology book about the times that it grew up in, and you just look back. Like I just read something today for Black History Month. I think it was from I want to say Yukon Swing and Blues people on Instagram, and they were just talking about like how it was just like trash, like pushed down until someone else white said it was really cool. Then they were like, really cool, great, ragtime, sounds fun. I think in general, we always have to realize that we are guests, and we do hold up, and we can be pillars of this culture as long as we remember where we are and where we came from. And in that, I feel confident calling myself an artist as a Lindy Hopper, knowing that I will always carry all of that knowledge and that legacy with me.
Beautifully said. I feel like I can just leave it at that and feel really good about
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, that was beautiful. It is. You know, we're very fortunate that we have had time to spend, you know, actual in-person time with some of the legends of this dance, and be able to carry that with us and pass that along and amplify the underprivileged voices in our scene that are going to carry this further for us.
Yeah. And not just to keep
actually.
Not just keep it one-sided, because also like I got to experience the Burlesque Hall of Fame before everything went to hell, and that was very, very similar in the sense of a lot of voices being shut down because of the color of their skin.
That's right.
But on top of that, a lot of women being shut down for just being women and expressing themselves the way they wanted to express. I think there's this kind of a feeling that like, oh, they were so much more pleasant in the past, and like, oh, they were so much nicer, and you know, the ladies did this and the gentlemen did this, and, you know, like that. It's like, no. Everyone fucked around. Everyone's fucking crazy, no matter what time period you think you are.
Well, especially when you're talking about burlesque, because it wasn't an art form back then. It was a fucking job.
Yeah.
You go to strip to make money.
Yeah.
You know, it's an art form now, and they took artistry in what they did, but really they were paving the way for all of us to be able to do what we're doing today.
And I feel like in the same sense that you have told me a lot of those stories and a lot of those histories, and you've taken this energy that you put into Lindy Hop before, of learning all that stuff, into burlesque, and then brought that forward as well. Like I remember sitting there on Legends Night, and you were telling me every little thing about every legend that came. Oh, this is this and this is this. I was like, oh my God, you fucking know everything about this. This is so amazing. This is blowing my mind. This is so cool. Like, it's so great. I get an interpreter while I'm watching everybody on stage right now. So I think in that sense, again, is another way that we've taken all of our energy and time and putting it into something else, and learning that and understanding that and being a part of that culture is definitely a part of moving on to any art form.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we're going to put it to a close. Episode 2 is still under the 1 hour and 20 minute mark, so that's good. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts,
everywhere
on
that
Spotify,
you listen to podcasts. That's what they say,
Google
right?
Podcasts, and
Spotify,
anywhere. I'm trying to follow the script I wrote for myself. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So anywhere you listen to podcasts, please feel free to rate and review us. It helps out a lot. It really does. So if anybody's listening out there, just leave us a review, or 5 stars, or whatever. If you don't like the way we talk, then 1 star. It doesn't matter. But the last thing we want to talk about is also we have a Patreon where we put up dance breakdowns, choreography, and mini lessons, in the sense of like we actually teach a move, or we teach. We teach to a camera. Best student ever. Never asked a question. And we also put up like only exclusive, like the podcast will go up there first for a couple days, and then will be released to everybody else. And then what else do we have on? What are you doing with your life? You go.
Get out of here. I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're good.
So hey, if you want us to interview something, or somebody something like this bottle.
How do you feel the podcast went today, Mr. Stranger?
Sadly, this is only 1 glass in. Rhythm and booze, everybody. If there's somebody that you would like us to interview, that's what we want to do on here. We want to talk to other people and find out their experiences. So send us a message.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll send us through Instagram. We're not gonna say our handles. You guys know it. And Facebook. And if not, you don't know it, just look up our names. It's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. This has been really fun. I would like another glass of the red stuff, please.
Tall Dark Stranger.
Yeah, that too.
Malbec.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.